is the Transformers Generations Legacy Voyager class Prime Universe Bulkhead. Prime Universe meaning from the show Transformers Prime. They decided to do a G1 styled version of this character, much like what they did with RC, the Prime Universe RC from the same line, the Legacy line. Okay, I picked this figure up from my local Toy Kingdom store for a whopping $46. Man, talk about inflation. The local importer just decided to jack up the prices and overcompensate for inflation and all these mall discounts, mall promos, store promos, in-store discounts, and whatnot. The first quarter of 2022, we had nothing. 3 months of nothing. No new Transformers on retail from Toy Kingdom and Toys R Us. We were left to the hobby shops, which is fine, actually, considering the fact that it looks like retail is going to be a lot more expensive than the hobby shop. So if you're in Manila, oh my goodness, the best bet to get affordable Transformers and maybe a lot of the Hasbro products is through the hobby shops at Green Hills. You pre-order them on Facebook because retail, which Toy Kingdom and Toys R Us, is going to be very expensive in the coming months of 2022. $46. Luckily, it was on a 10% discount. Toy Kingdom, Toys R Us didn't have a 10% discount, so I ended up paying about a little over $41. Still steep, but what can you do, right? I've been anxious to review this figure. Been trying to get hold of it, and thankfully we have him now, as well as the rest of the new legacy figures for Wave 1. Let's get this figure out of packaging. And here is Legacy Bulkhead. And you know what? I mean, it's not a super great figure, but it's not bad. It's actually not too bad. I'm actually feeling a lot better with this figure than that Legacy RC. This figure is definitely not perfect. It's I don't know if it can replace the original Transformers Prime Bulkhead, but I actually had a lot of fun with this figure. I have to admit, it's got its good points. It's got its bad points, definitely. But you know what? I feel like it looks like Bulkhead. It feels like Bulkhead, but I get this sinking feeling at the back of my neck that it's not Bulkhead. It feels like it's Inferno or Hauler cosplaying as Transformers Prime Bulkhead. It could, you know, for all we know, it could be Ultra Magnus or Optimus Prime cosplaying as Bulkhead. That's the vibe I'm getting for this figure, because it's a decent Voyager class figure. Some interesting transformation, interesting proportions in terms of body mass here and there, lots of hollow spaces, but it kind of does its job as a replacement Bulkhead. Anyway, let's talk about the details of this figure. The figure comes with several accessories. He's got this Energon weapon, which is a sort of a railgun Gatling gun. He can hold it on either hand, and you can mount it on either side of his shoulders via this teeny tiny peg, which pegs onto that little hole right there. It's an interesting choice of Energon weapon. Probably the best one we've gotten so far from the Legacy line. I'm not complaining about this, just I'm not entirely sure where this fits in Bulkhead's arsenal. I never really imagined him to have a railgun Gatling gun, so anyway, not complaining too much about it. If at all, it looks a little bit too small for him. And then he has his iconic Wrecking Ball accessory, which you can have him hold on either hand and then just close it up. It's just a little difficult to remove once you have it on. It looks okay. It's a little smaller than the original Wrecking Balls that we had. This was from the first edition, so it's got less spikes, but you can clearly see where the design of this Wrecking Ball came from. The similarities of these vertical, or I guess horizontal spikes. And here is the one from the Robots in Disguise. It had that spinning gimmick. So very similar in design, albeit this one has a little bit more holes, actually, more peg holes, which you can mount the other weapons onto. So that's pretty cool. And then he has his riot shield. The riot shield actually forms the tarp that covers his truck. And this is the way to do it, as instructions say. You plug it in like that, and it acts like a riot shield. So, I mean, you know how I feel about parts forming pieces for Transformers, that they just turned it into weapons. Not a big fan of that, but this one kind of works for me. You can have it there. You can mount it on his arm as a regular shield. The instructions do say this is the front part of the shield, and that's the window to form the riot shield, but it still looks like it's a soft material, not really anything that can withstand an energon blast. However, on the other side, you can reverse the plug or the peg. This one looks more like armor. They've actually molded in a lot of details, which was not necessary, because it covers the truck this way and then it forms a shield this way. So, you know, if Hasbro was really trying to be lazy with this figure, they would have skipped all of these designs, but they've actually put some on it, and it feels like it's military grade ordnance that can really stop a, I don't know, cannon fire or a mortar shell. And I think it looks more like a shield, like a blast shield this way than the other way around. But anyway, it's really up to you. It's a matter of preference. Again, the shield works. It's okay. I would have preferred a non-parts forming accessory, but in this case, it kind of works. As far as the details of the figure go, like I said, he's very, very solid. You know, as solid as can be. There's a lot of really nice sculpting around the figure. His entire chest is made of this clear blue plastic, which they just painted beautifully with this really nice army green. It matches most of his plastic parts that are green. I really love the paint apps that they put on this one. Just premium quality type of paint, green paint. You got that Autobot logo, and you clearly see it's made of really clear plastic, including that peg right there. And because of the shape, there's a lot of empty space. It's a huge empty space for his chest. There's nothing to cover it up or anything like that. From the front, it looks okay, but when you turn him around to the side and turn him around from the back, you can really see all that gap. So it's okay. I'm sure a lot of third-party companies are going to do something about it and fill that up. The legs, arms are pretty solid. There's not a lot of hollow spaces. Very, very cool. The legs, or the feet, I should say, are made of these flat duck feet type of feet. It's not something you would see for Bulkhead. I would imagine he would have like these big beefy feet. It's something you would normally see, let's say, for Inferno, maybe Optimus Prime. So, like, you know, it just gives more credence to my theory that this is probably Hauler or Inferno cosplaying as a Bulkhead. As for articulation, the neck is on a ball joint. What's interesting about this new packaging is you're able to touch the figure without opening the figure because there's no plastic window. And the two figures I saw in the store when I picked up this figure, one was really loose. It had a really loose ball jointed neck. It was wobbling. You barely touched it and it would wobble. And so I decided to choose this one, which had a tighter ball joint. I guess that type of setup of the packaging allows you to test the integrity of the joints. So, okay, he's got a waist swivel. Shoulders can go in and out, forward and backward 360. You got a bicep swivel. You got a hinge elbow, very tight, if I may add. Swivel wrists. The wrists need not swivel. They didn't have to do that, but even for transformation, it's not necessary, but they did it. So kudos to the Hasbro design team. As for the legs, you can go forward and backward, you go in and out. There's a little bit of kibble right here that might hinder some articulation when you twist the thigh like that. I think this is now the common practice for the thigh swivel, and they extend a little bit of the sculpting on the thigh to cover that hip joint. And for this figure, it works. Unlike the Blur figure, which had the same engineering on its thigh swivel, it was a really difficult joint to really articulate for that Blur figure. But for Bulkhead, there is enough clearance around the hip joint and the thighs to allow for certain motions, and You can get him into a lot of dynamic poses with that hip joint, and as well as that thigh swivel. This one's a little loose, this one's pretty tight. Hinge knees, and the feet can go up and down a little bit with the rocker tilt. For some size comparisons in robot mode, here he is with Transformers Animated Voyager class Bulkhead, and here he is with Legacy Deluxe class RC. Here he is with first edition Transformers Prime Voyager class Bulkhead. And here he is with the Transformers Prime Robots in Disguise Voyager class Bulkhead. And here they all are with their respective RC counterparts. Got the first edition RC, Robots in Disguise RC, and finally the best Legacy figure ever made by Hasbro, the Deluxe class Legacy RC. Transformation, it's a little bit involved than I expected it to be, considering the fact that I thought it would be a much more simpler transformation from bot mode to truck mode, but it's pretty satisfying once you complete it. So first thing you want to do is put the weapons off to the side, attach the shoulders. Okay, you want to lift this piece right here. He's got some fake wheels right here, and this is clearly an homage to the first edition Bulkhead, or to the aesthetic of Bulkhead in general. You want to lift this entire cab section up like that, then fold down the neck or the head assembly. Then you want to rotate the shoulder bits right here, and then you want to attach them as tightly as possible, as tight as you can, because it's not going to be flush if they're not stuck together on as close as possible. Okay, then you want to bend the arms this way. At this point, there's the flap right here, which will fill out that sort of space left by the neck or the head. You want to lift that head just a little bit so that this thing doesn't keep folding down. I mean, it's pretty annoying because it's, I don't know, there's no easy way to bring it back up. Okay, and then cover the arms with the cab. That's the front part done. The fake wheels are going to fold in like this, and this one's going to stay right there. That's where this thing's going to tab in. We'll do that later so you can see the transformation. Okay, next thing you want to do is you want to untab this abdomen piece, and then untab the spine like this. Okay, and then the feet, you want to open this back panel right here. There is the gas tank, I should say, folds out this way. Same with this one. It's starting to feel like an Optimus Prime transformation. Okay, and then what you want to do is you want to lift everything up, and okay, this one's the trickiest bit. So you got to prep everything before you do it. So fold the knees like that, fold the panel, fold the feet, lock those panels in, fold the feet up like that, and then join them together. Okay, once you've prepped everything, these two tiny pegs right here, they're going to slot onto those small holes right there. And then these, again, very thin pegs right here on the gas tank, they're going to slot in to these holes right here. So you're going to line up everything, tab, and then tab the gas tank onto the thighs so that it's a little bit more stable, and then you can finally tab the gas tank onto the rear part of the cab, and everything should line up and tab precisely to form the truck. Okay, and at this point you can, I guess, store the weapons right here. The wrecking ball is here, the Energon railgun Gatling gun is here, and then finally the shield or the tarp tabs onto the top part, fold it in, and just complete the transformation into a G.I. Joe personal military carrier truck mode. I have no idea. It feels like it's a military truck. You could replace this with a crane or a fire hose or something. It could be Hauler or it could be Inferno. It could be Grapple if you put a crane on it. So yeah, that's essentially the alt mode. There are ports right here. You can attach the weapons there if you wanted to give him some battle mode, but on that's that. He rolls very nicely. It's a medium-sized Voyager class figure. It's a good-sized Voyager class figure. Very solid in alt mode once you complete the transformation, once you do the transformation properly. A little bit of a empty space right here, but that's fine. That's what a personnel carrier or a transport truck does. It has empty space to fill up with cargo. But everything else, it's a handsome looking truck. Very cool, very happy with it. Comparisons in alt mode or in truck mode. Here we have the Transformers animated Voyager class Bulkhead. And to think people back in the day thought this figure was pretty small, he looks humongous compared to the Legacy Bulkhead. And here he is with fellow Prime Universe figure in the Legacy line. We have Legacy Deluxe Class RC. Obviously not in scale. RC is way too big for the Bulkhead truck. And here is Legacy Bulkhead with the first edition Transformers Prime Bulkhead and the Robots in Disguise Voyager Class Bulkhead. I think he looks the smallest out of all the three. Nah, right there. The size is pretty much Voyager class. It's just that he feels, scale-wise, he should have been a lot bigger if he were a truck compared to these other SUVs. And so some final thoughts on this Transformers Legacy Voyager class Prime Universe Bulkhead. It's not as bad as I thought it would be. It's definitely not as bad as Legacy RC, but it's also not a super great figure. So I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. It really surprised me at how much fun it actually is when you have it in hand. Transformation's it's a little complex than I thought it would be, but still satisfying once you complete the transformation. He's got some great accessories. To me, he's not quite Bulkhead, but he can pass for a Bulkhead if you missed out on the other Prime Universe or Transformers Prime Bulkhead. You can put a little bit more imagination to it. And like the Hasbro managers and the brand team has always said about these Legacy figures, they want all these figures to be able to sit and live on the same shelf without, looking too different from each other. So to be honest, to me, that's a pretty weak rationalization, because I'm pretty happy having my first edition Bulkhead live with my other generation's figures. It's not gonna be that big of a deal. But anyway, that was the idea for these G1-ish or G1 styled generations Transformers from different universes like the Prime universe. So it kind of passes as a Bulkhead, but like I said in the beginning, he looks like Bulkhead. He feels like he's Bulkhead, but he's not quite Bulkhead. He feels like he's an Inferno or a Generations Inferno or Hauler or maybe even Optimus Prime cosplaying as Bulkhead. After RC, I was prepared. I actually had a script written out to give this guy like a 5 out of 10 because I didn't believe in it. But having him now in hand, have played with him, transformed him, I think he deserves an 8 out of 10. I'm okay with the figure. He's not something I'd get rid of easily after doing this review, and I think he's probably going to stay on my shelf or in my bins. Let me know what you think of this new Transformers Legacy Prime Universe Voyager class Bulkhead. Is he something that can replace the other Bulkheads? Do you buy that whole idea of a variant Bulkhead that can live on your generation's shelf? Let me know in the comments, and as always, hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of my latest video reviews. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.